Hey, welcome back. I'm Jake Lizzio, and in this video I want to show you how simple it is to start writing your own metal riffs if you just have a little bit of music theory. You can guess that most metal music was written without any theory in mind, but if you know a little bit, then it's very easy to analyze that stuff and say, oh, this is how it's done, and this is how I can do it. So in this video, I want to teach you the Metallica Scale, which is an awesome set of notes that's used in like every metal song. We're going to take that scale, we're going to turn it into power chords, and then we're going to talk about actually how do we make riffs? What are some concepts and some strategies we can use to make good sounding riffs. And we'll also be talking about working rhythmically as opposed to working melodically, because music is two parts. It's what note do you play and when do you play it. So if you have the when figured out, if you've already got the rhythm figured out, then it means you've got like half the puzzle figured out when it comes to working with riffs. So I want to start off into things by talking about what is the Metallica scale, all right? You should know what a minor scale is, and if you don't know what a minor scale is, check out my other video on minor. But really what we're doing here to make the Metallica scale is we're taking a minor scale and we're just injecting in all the nastiest parts of the chromatic scale possible. So for example, in E, if I want the E minor scale, it would be E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, and D, and E. That's E minor. Now the two nastiest intervals in music, and this is subjective, but most people would agree, is the minor second. That's a note right away from my root, so like a half step away, E to F. That's ugly, right? And if we're writing metal music, we want to be including that. It's way more threatening than the normal second note of my scale. The normal second of my note is F sharp. That's cool, very rocking, but it doesn't have that real grossness to it. So we want to include that. Why would we, just because it's not in the key of E minor, who cares? We're going to use it because it's evil. The other evil note we can use is the tritone, all right? That's the flatted fifth note of the scale. So if I go up to my fifth note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and if I flat it, I get a B flat, or you can think of it as an A sharp, either one, all right? So E to B flat is a really ugly interval as well. So it would make sense that if I'm writing metal, I would kind of want those disturbing tones within my stuff. But the minor scale that surrounds it is so important. It sounds so good. So what the idea here is for writing riffs is we kind of want to be using the minor scale and then injecting in some of these ugly notes. All right, just so you can hear what I'm talking about. What if I just went up E minor and then finally played one of those ugly notes? All right. And if I give that a rhythm, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and maybe a palm mute. Right, and that's just a simple idea of going up. Let's use the other ugly note I told you about was the minor second. So what do we want? And 2 and 3 and... I mean, that's pretty nasty. So the next step here is turn all these notes into power chords. Most of our metal riffs are combinations of power chords and single notes. So let's take every one of these notes, E, make it an E power chord, F, make it an F power chord, F sharp, G, make it a power chord, A sharp, B, C, D, and E. And same thing as before, we kind of want to think in the minor scale, but then inject the other stuff. So in my minor scale video, I told you should really focus on your root a lot. Today our root is E. So we really want to focus on our E power chord more than anything else, all right? But once we've got our E power chord, what if we pick another note from the minor scale? So the fourth note was A. I like that. And then let's go to the third note, which is G, and then let's do one of our ugly notes. All right, so we had E, A, G, E flat. And just that combination of power chords could be a great stomping intro. If you start adding palm mutes to that, a palm muting pattern. And then let's go to the F at the end this time. So the first one ends on B flat. The second one will end on F. All right, so just by combining those notes together, you're going to pretty much have like an infinite supply of possible power chords to put together that'll work out. Now, why do I call this the Metallica scale? Well, literally like 90% of Metallica's music can be analyzed in this sense. It's mainly minor music, and they've just injected in some of those other tones there. I'm not even going to name them off the top of my head. I'll do a little homework and I'll put a list of songs that like literally follow this note for note. I know off the top of my head of Wolf and Man. All right, I know is just this Metallica scale. And it's not just Metallica. I mean, if you listen to Pantera, if you listen to Black Sabbath, you're going to hear the same kind of thing where we're mostly minor, because minor's awesome, but it's not awesome enough to include all that demonic, goopy metal goodness. All right? So we've talked about adding in the power chords here, and we've talked about using the scale. I want to talk about some general riff strategies here. All right? And this is going to involve using rhythm. A general riff strategy would to be like do a consistent pattern of a single note and then introduce a power chord. So imagine if I had one measure of just my root, all right, which is E, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Then I get to do some power chord stuff. So I'll pick my ugly power chord, my tritone, and then I'm come down here, and then I'll go to my 3rd fret and then back to A. So it'll be B flat, A, G, A, and I've got a measure of palm mutes, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and boom, 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 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. So you can see I'm just kind of slightly sculpting these riffs. Once I have a general idea, I think, what else can I do? Oh, I could palm mute it. Oh, I could do a palm muting pattern. I could hit the wrong power chord. Right? Starts to sound more like metal. Another thing I want to talk to you about is pedaling off of this E note and using these same power chords up higher. So like we have an E power chord here, but we also have an E power chord here. We also have an F power chord here, and a G power chord here, and an F sharp power chord here. So using like this note to start your palm mutes off of, and then jumping up to these high power chords. And we usually call that pedaling when we constantly return to a consistent note. In this case, our pedal tone would be E. And a lot of our metal is just pedaling on E and then going through different power chords. So pedaling on E and playing a G, B flat, D, C sharp, even though that's not in my Metallica scale. You can add in any note you want, but I'm just trying to analyze things by what I hear the most. And what I hear the most in our metal music is just that minor scale with a flatted second and with a tritone added in there. So we really need to talk about rhythm here. With a few basic rhythm cycles, you'll be able to just come up with an infinite amount of riffs here. So here are the most important rhythms, in my opinion, for metal. You need to know what a gallop is. That's an 8th note and then 2 16th notes. And it sounds like this: 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4. The opposite of a gallop is like a reverse gallop, okay? It would be 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and, 1 E and, 2 E and, 3 E and, 4 E and. And then the other essential rhythmic cycle here is just straight 8th notes: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And by taking any combination of those and mixing them together, you're going to get a very, very cool rhythm. So I'm literally just guessing here. Let's do 2 bits of a gallop. That's 1 and a 2 and a. Then let's do 1 reverse gallop, which is 3 E and then let's do some 8th notes, 4 and. So I'll have 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and speed that up. And a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and. Now I've got a really cool rhythm that's, nice and tight. Your drummer could sync up to that, and I can start injecting in parts of my scale now to that. I could do 1 and a 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and a 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and a 2 and 3 E and 4 and up. 1 and a 2 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 1 and a. Okay, so it took me a second, but here's that same rhythm. I crafted it into a little riff, and it sounds like this: 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and. I'll do that 3 times, and then the 4th time, I'll just hang out on my nasty tritone. So the whole thing is 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 and a 3 E and 4 and 1 and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E. So I swear, you can take like any combination of these 16th note gallops and these reverse gallops and these 8th notes and just put them together so it adds up to 4 beats. Practice that, and you're going to have a cool, awesome, tight palm muting pattern that your drummer can sync up, your bass player can sync up to. And then from there, you can use that as a scaffolding to kind of build a riff around. Introduce some power chords, introduce single notes of the scale, try going up the scale, and then injecting one of those notes, those evil notes. It's really, really easy to start writing generic metal riffs by using this. And then, it's free for you to, inject your own style after that. I do need to note that the Metallica scale technically does have a name. I believe it's called, let me double check. All right, so technically that set of notes is called the Locrian Aeolian Mixed Scale, but that I've never heard that term before. I doubt anybody is going to recognize that term. And the term Metallica scale works fine because people get what it means as soon as you say it. A scale is something you write music in, and Metallica has a tendency to write a lot of music just using this set of notes. So I hope this gives you some insight into writing riffs. And, you know, the way I think about it, if I wanted to do something like emulate Metallica, what would I do? Well, I would pick the same kind of notes that they pick. I would do the same strategies that they do, you know, picking power chords, surrounding it by palm mutes, and then also keeping in mind that you can't go wrong with the modes of major and minor. You know, the minor scale is great. A lot of Metallica choruses, a lot of metal choruses are just straight diatonic minor. So you really shouldn't shy away from the boringness of minor, because you can actually do a lot with it, especially if you infuse it with some of that nasty interval stuff like I showed you here. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned something from this video. If you do enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, comment, all that kind of stuff really helps me out. And if you really enjoy these videos, I would appreciate your support on my Patreon page. There is a link in the description. Thank you for watching.